From the Ticats Audio Network, this is Speaking with the Enemy.
Tiger Cats Argonauts from BMO Field in downtown Toronto, and you're tuned in to Tiger Cats pregame presented by Greenworks. Whether on offense or defense, Greenworks Tools has got you and your lawn covered. Tackle any chore like the pros with our full lineup of tools at greenworkstools.com. Tiger Cats fans, it's time for Speaking with the Enemy, presented by Red Tag. Ready to get ahead of the cold Canadian winter? Look no further than redtag.ca. Picture yourself basking in the warm sand shores of a tropical island where worries melt away like ice in the sun. Don't let winter hold you back. Plan ahead and beach better. Travel made easy with redtag.ca. Well, for 15 years, he's been the voice of the Toronto Argonauts, and a fella who, as myself, who does McMaster games, it's kind of going to get really uncomfortable in the booth here right now with my partner, Mike Daly, Mike Hogan, a couple of Laurier guys, real happy right now at the moment. Mike Hogan, thanks for joining us.
36-9, wasn't that the score?
That's right. You can say it
I'm
again
sorry, was
if
that
you want.
too soon?
Oh, Hoagie, you're a piece of work. Let me talk to you about this contest tonight. Before we talk about the contest, you've got something going on, which I really expect, bringing back so many former Argonauts for your fan base to be excited about. Maybe you'll tell our fans about it.
Yeah, and, I know a lot of Argo fans head down every year for the Hall of Fame in Hamilton, about the folks that really appreciate the history of the league. And maybe some of your listeners want to come down for this one. It's October the 6th. It's a Friday night. Edmonton's in town. I'll give you a list of some of the guys that are coming back for this. Bill Simons, Terry Greer, Condrich Holloway, Donnie Mullen, Paul Massotti, Pinball Clemens, Dan Peroni, Rodney Harding, Doug Flutie, Mookie Mitchell, Damon Allen, Ricky Ray, Rocket Ismail, Joe Barnes, Chad Owens, Lance Chomick, Paul Brazeley, Noel Prefontaine, Hank Olisic, on and on and on and on. That's just some of. That's the start.
That's an impressive. Did you say Joe Barnes?
Joe Barnes. Barnes and Holloway are coming back.
Yeah, the 1-2 connection from the early 80s. I mean, that was legendary stuff, for crying out loud. That's outstanding. So congratulations for you guys. That's great to see that so many former Argonauts are getting involved. And certainly the revival of the Argonauts has been a big story in the Canadian Football League this year. Let's talk about tonight's contest. I think the obvious thing to throw in there is, of course, you're in a situation where the division has been clinched. And this whole discussion of rest versus rust is going to last for at least 6 weeks. Your thoughts?
All right, here we go.
We can't pull the plug now, right? I mean, you've got to still keep your foot on the gas. I'm going to be curious to see what Coach Dinwiddie does in terms of getting guys some rest while not
We're just having one
messing
issue.
with the momentum
Nothing
this
works.
team has, because the last thing you want to do is bench everybody and lose 3 of your last 4 games going into the playoffs. Today, A.J. Ouellette, I don't know if he's nicked up at all, but he seems to be the healthy scratch tonight.
I was able to
a chance for fans to see Deontay McMahon, who everybody in the organization is really happy to see get an opportunity because he looked exceptionally good in training camp this year. So, and a different look as a guy who's pretty small. He's one of those, small, quick guys that the CFL's become so famous for. So that's a chance. But, the starting defense is going to be the same. There's a couple guys out with injuries. Andrew Harris took a shot to the knee last week in Montreal. So he's on the 6th game. So there's a couple of starters that are out. But for the most part, this is a starting lineup aside from guys who are injured, legitimately injured.
Yeah, Mike, how much of this is, also chasing, a record for the Argonauts? Like, does that matter at all internally for them? Or is this one of those things where, who cares what they're going to say about the regular season? It kind of matters for postseason getting there healthy.
Mike, you've been on teams, right, where you have a catchphrase or there's a slogan every year. And sometimes the team will buy into it, and sometimes they don't. The slogan this year is go 1-0 every week, and it was last year as well. And these guys totally buy into that. I literally have not heard anybody talk about, can we go 15-3 and match an all-time record, which the Argos have done twice in their existence. The 2 Flutie years, they went 15-3. I haven't heard anybody talk about that. I haven't heard anybody talk about Winnipeg next week. To be honest, nobody's talking about that. Everything this week was all about the Ticats this week. So, sometimes it's all lip service, but for whatever reason, this team is absolutely bought in to the 2 slogans this team has: go 1-0 this week and get 2% better every day.
Yeah, and that's that's kind of good to hear, because right now when you look at this Argos team, I mean, if you looking at it, is there a weak point that you can see right now? Like when you kind of break it down stats wise, when you watch it in a game, it's like they take turns, whether it's special teams with Javon Leake, whether it's Chad Kelly or AJ Ouellette or whoever's running that ball, and then defensively as well. Is there a area that you need to see improve, or is it just kind of keep this thing rolling at this point?
I mean, if you look statistically, their red zone defense hasn't been great. They've allowed a lot of trips into the red zone to become touchdowns. Does that come back to haunt them? Well, it doesn't when you're scoring 31 points a game, more than that, whatever it is now. But maybe that they give up a lot of yards. But I'm a guy who several times over the course of his career coached in Toronto and Rich Stubler. It's sort of a bend, don't break. Let them go between the 20s and then tighten it up. But this team hasn't been able to consistently tighten it up inside the 20s. So maybe if there's anything, that would be it. But offensively, there's not much to complain about. Special teams maybe shorten some of the big plays in terms of kickoff returns. But, they don't give up tons of big plays, but the average is pretty high. So it's I don't know. At this stage, just keep doing what you're doing. You're 11-1. Yeah,
absolutely. And you mentioned, offensively, it's rolling a little bit. I want to talk about one guy, and mainly because I personally know him a little bit. But what seems to be happening over there in the Argos on offense is you just keep finding these Canadian receivers that are going to keep making plays, right? And right now, the one that's breaking out was David Unger at the beginning of the season. We obviously know what Curly Gittins can do. Dejon Brissett, obviously, as well. But Tommy Neald over the last two games, like
McMaster.
Talk about it, yeah, McMaster, absolutely. But talk about somebody that's kind of burst onto the scene and now provides this depth with a guy like Curly Gittins out. Just a little bit about him and what you've seen.
Yeah, you know him well. It's funny that when I was writing for OUA.ca, Steph Potasic was raving after he was recruited at Mac, and I remember in his freshman year, I remember watching him high point the football. And he was so it's like, okay, has this guy played basketball his entire life or what? So it's, I'll use the description to one of your other cohorts and Andy Fantus. Like, I'm not comparing the two, but Andy was so good at getting up to the top of his jump and knowing the exact place to high point the football. That's the one thing that Tommy impressed me with. And then when he ran like a 4.8 or 7 or something at the combine, which was faster than anybody expected. And I was like, okay, he can play every special team. He's got a big body type. He knows how to box out. He can use the basketball skills. And I think he's got pretty good rhythm with Chad, because last year, don't forget, they were both with the twos, right? They were both backups and would have thrown to each other a lot. And I think that's really been part of the chemistry. And, I think McLeod Bethel Thompson developed some cohesion with Curly Gittins Jr. for the same reason, because, at different times they were the twos. And I think there is something to be said for that. And you mentioned Ungerer. I'll admit when we brought him in, I was kind of, okay, we've got Brissett, we've got Neal, we've got Gittins. I mean, where's he going to fit in? And my God, he's good. You guys saw him with the Ticats, and whatever he was doing there, he's taken to another level here. He has just been so dependable and has been filling in at holder on the kicks with Boris, with Haggerty out. And he may have saved the game last week with a great hold on a high snap for the game. I guess it was a game-winning field goal. And man, he's brought so much. So yeah, it might not be the star power that Curly Gittins has, but what Neal and Unger and Brissett have added has just been an invaluable asset to this team this year.
Yeah, absolutely. And like the nice thing to see is that all those guys are getting involved on the special teams. And we mentioned Javon Leake, right? And the things that he has done punt return wise, at least for this offense and for the Argos. Like, just to see all those guys get involved, it's pretty impressive seeing Javon Leake out there. And, he always has that kind of that chance to take it to the house. So I know, like you said, it's kind of rolling on all three phases. But that's another guy, right? Another guy that just kind of stepped up this year and has really shown, a ton of flashes.
You know what the damnedest thing about him was? He won the Big 10 returner of the year, special teams player of the year at Maryland, right? He never returned punts. He did kickoffs only. He comes up here. Last year he was just getting used to catching punts because he hated it because there was no halo, right? And he didn't want to get drilled. And you know what it's like if you don't put up the fair catch down there, you can have guys, a yard away from you just plowing into you. And he didn't like that very much. But now he's got this magical 5-yard halo around him, and he loves it now. And it's the only fumble the Argos have lost all year was him in the end zone, and it ended up being the big play and their only loss this year against Calgary. But man, he is so much fun, and when he hits that wall, he's gone. So the fact that he's now comfortable catching punts is something for a guy who never did it in college.
Hoagie, just about 30 seconds here. I got to throw you this one. Coach Dinwiddie, is he underrated? I just don't feel like he's getting the attention he really maybe should.
Probably, because, and you guys know what it's like when the voting comes up at the end of the year. There are 5 Western teams and 4 Eastern teams, and the Western voting is skewed nationally. And I think people look at the East and say, it's Dinwiddie. And, all he's done is get to the Eastern final 3 times now and win a Grey Cup. So, and we don't know what's going to happen this year. But in a word, I think he's grotesquely underrated in this country.
He is the voice of the Toronto Argonauts, Mike Hogan, and this has been Speaking with the Enemy, presented by Red Tag. Mike, I always remember our mutual friend Chris Schultze telling me to keep the rivalry alive, so let's keep on doing that, partner.
Argo, okay, we'll do that. We'll, as the Argo voice, I'll say Ticat's son. Does that work?
You're a peach, buddy. Thanks for joining us.
Appreciate it.